anyway, and if you want to understand Zeus in your chart, which is Jupiter, then you have to understand Jesus and what he was. He's a healer. He was a counselor. He was wise. He was wisdom. He was all those things. So if you want to understand astrology, I'm fortunate. I got one. By the way, Timothy back here is one of my top students. I've been around a lot of guys. I've had a lot of students in my life, but this guy back here is an amazing guy. He speaks the language. He learns the language. He's gone. It just astounds me. And we've been private tutoring for almost 20 weeks. But he is amazing. And one of the things I've learned, and some people have a mind for this. They have a mind for the archetypical language. They have for the mythologies, okay? And you begin to understand them. They begin to change your life. Kumaraswa, if you can say that word, you're good. He said, myth embodies the nearest approach to absolute truth that can be stated in words. Alan Watts interprets myth as a complex of images or a story, whether factual or fanciful, taken to represent the deepest truths of life, or simply regarded as specifically significant for no clearly realized reason. Okay? So, my book, The Greatest Story Never Told, is on astrology, mythology, psychology, scripture. It puts it all together. Okay? And I was very fortunate because, I'm not a scholar. After 9 years of imprisonment, I surely had nothing to recommend me for. But I had two of the greatest scholars, two top scholars in this country, praise the book. And one of them said it should be compulsory reading for every thinking individual. So I have books and stuff. We'll do the commercials later. But I have books and CDs and all that stuff available if you want more of this. But the bottom line is the myths. Oh, it's working now. Okay. Why we embrace reverently some historically recorded events unquestioningly and discard others may reflect nothing more than an ecclesiastical dictum pronounced by some council of centuries past. The Nicene Council was one of those councils, and it really took a lot of things out of your scriptures and put it into the priest's hands. And Tim and I were talking about this the other day, the power to make this control all the people with this knowledge. So now we got the Vatican, we got Rome.
So we moved most of the Gospels and just chose the ones that followed an outside power running the church.
I know, and it's a wonderful day we live in, because now you're finding all these other apostles, the apostles of Thomas and, the Mary Magdalene and all these things, and people are beginning to open their eyes now. So, okay. Okay, so it says, what is history but a fable agreed upon? That's Napoleon said that. And is it myth or historical accuracy? Can myths never come or ever come to full expression in the panorama of historical accuracy? Could some myths represent the deepest truths of life, couched in symbols only the subconscious can discern? That's why I think myths are there. If you wanted to inculcate in your children when they were growing up good values, good morals, you read them bedtime stories and you give them all these visuals to think about. And what you're doing is you're literally creating myths around these stories that will deeply embed into their subconscious mind. Subconscious mind thinks in pictures. It doesn't think in words. Okay? So, anyway. The fall of man, I told you, it was depicted by Adam and Eve. They ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Interesting, huh? Good and evil. And then I told you paradise comes from two roots, beyond division. And the word literally means beyond division. That's what it was. They were in a place beyond division. And notice the first thing that happened to them after they fell. Okay, after Diablos entered into this paradise. Okay, Diablos, devil, has its root in divide and abolish. No other words, in other words, the military strategy of divide and conquer. So Diablos tempts Eve to partake of the fruit of the tree of good and evil. And then the fall of man, get this, there's no apple here. The only apple that was the misuse of the speech faculty, our vocal cords, called Adam's apple. That's where that all came from. Okay, so as they began to accuse, notice what they did. how does the fall be represented? Look at what happens. What does Adam say? It's not my fault, it's thou woman, it's the woman thou gavest me. Yeah, it's your fault you gave her to me, and it's her fault she made me do it. But she's not going to buy into that, okay? So she's got to find somebody to scapegoat. You know, at least the Jews had it smart. They used to, I don't know if they still do it today, they used to send a goat into the desert to die, a scapegoat. Well, the sins of the people on their back, on the back of the goat. It was symbolic, okay? But scapegoating comes from Capricorn, the goat, okay? Satan's sign, Saturn's sign, okay? Okay, doesn't make you, we all have Saturn in our chart, we all have Capricorn in our chart, don't get upset, oh, my son's in Capricorn. It's not about that, okay? It's about a chart. So we see that the fall takes, the first step of the fall is accusation. But notice the first thing that actually happened wasn't they accused each other. What did they do first? They hid themselves because they were ashamed. Ah, now what does that tell you? We should all go naked, yes. No. What does it tell you? Think about it. They were guilty. And if they're guilty, they're starting to accuse themselves. So the fall of man was in the process of first guilt. I'm to blame, I'm the fault, I'm bad. The next thing was, let's find somebody else to throw it at it. It's your fault, God, you gave her to me, and it's woman, it's her fault, she made me do it. See where it goes? And then she's not going to take the blame, the devil made me do it. I mean, you know, I was in prison with a lot of guys that did terrible things. You ask them why they did it, oh, I was drunk. Alcohol made me do it. Oh, I'm a drug addict, I just was on drugs. You know, any excuse, right? Except to look at themselves and say, maybe it's because you did it, because that's in your heart, and that's where that came from. Okay? Understanding the nature of the spirit of accusation and dealing with it. This is what I want to give you. If you can go out of here and learn from this part of this lecture, it'll change your life. Okay? In Genesis, we're told that the fall of man was brought about by the devil, what its diabolical spirit and how does it work, what's the purpose of this fallen angel. Okay? Saturn, Satan, the devil, the serpent, that's what he's called. The purpose and goal of the Diabolos. By the way, you say, well, you know, Capricorn sign is I use. And Saturn has a purpose. It's called the serpent. You know what the serpent is? It's called Kundalini. You ever studied a little yoga? You know that. Guess what the serpent is? It sits down here at the bottom of the spine. If you raise it up, guess what? Guess what goes up? The serpent on the staff. You ever seen the caduceus of the healing arts? Oh, do you remember the story in Genesis? Moses raised up the serpent on the staff for the what? For the healing of the nation. Oh, what kind of staff was that? Some kind of stick out here? The serpent on the staff is the Ida and Pingla. It's the energies of the spine. It's the sexual energies. Okay? It's the desires, desire energy. The word desire, do you ever hear what it thinks? Think what does the word itself say? Thee is of. Sire is the father. Desire. You can use this energy right here for three things. You can have it for a generation of children. You can have it for a degenerative life. Or you can have it for regeneration, which is raising that energy up. Right? I've had priests read my book. They say, I never understood why I should be celibate till I read this book. Now I understand celibacy. You know, now I see what it was about. Because passion turns into what? Compassion. When you raise that energy up, okay? And if you can't do it, marry. That's why I'm married. That's what the good book says. If you can't constrain it, just marry. So here we go. So he's the tester and challenger to tempt and get us to curse God. He works with God's permission. We talked about that. Okay, how he accused, how you get him to accuse. Okay. So here's Satan, or William Blake's Satan smiting Job with his sores on his body. It's kind of a depiction in art, and he's allowed to do that. He's given permission. But remember, I told you Saturn has a use. Satan has a use. If you raise that energy up, guess what it is? Wow, remember I told you desire means of the Father? Guess what this prayer the Christians say they don't even understand? Our Father, who art in heaven, Where's heaven? No, you're not. The kingdom of heaven's within you. It's not out here. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, hallowed be thy name. See those rings around their saints' heads? You ever looked at Saturn's rings? What do you think it's there for? Ah, I see the aha moments. I love it when I see them. I love it. I love it. Because people get it. They get it. So they raised up that. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed, hallowed, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Oh, there's so many mysteries of the mysteries. Peter in the Bible, the rock upon which the church was built. Guess what that is referring to? Christ said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. He called Peter Satan. Why? The rock. What does Saturn rule in rocks, minerals, crystals? Huh? It rules this energy down here. Listen to the vulgar terms. Peter. Oh, Peter. How'd I name it that? Strange, huh? When the cock crows thrice, thou shalt deny me oh, Peter, cock. Oh, oh my God. Where do these words come from? Oh, but I got my rocks. Oh my God. What am I saying? Such vulgarity? Peter, upon this rock I'll build my church. And the gates of hell, it's right here. Whatsoever thou shalt loose in heaven, no, whatsoever thou loose on earth shall be lost where? In heaven. Whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound where? In heaven. See the mysteries? All these years you've been reading and studying this stuff. You know, it took me 9 years to break through all this stuff. You know, 9 years. It was like a monastery for me. I didn't have anywhere to chase the girls and go out and party. I mean, I had to be there in that little cell with myself. You know, it can lead you to some neat places within yourself. You know, instead of always out here. Always looking out.
Can I ask if traditional biblical scholars understand where you're coming from? Or are they totally...
You know, it's interesting that one of the greatest linguists on the earth, Mackay, who read my book in the bookstore, he couldn't put it down. He finished the book in the bookstore. And he called me up. He said, I've never called an author in 17 years about a book. It's the most exciting book I've ever read. And he wrote a beautiful review.